Chapter 7 of Puss in Boots Jr. in Fairyland. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Puss in Boots Jr. in Fairyland by David Cory. The Frog King. Well, the next morning, as soon as Puss Jr. threw away the dream poppy flower, he saw Mother Goose on her gander flying through the air. And by she came nearer and nearer, and pretty soon the gander flew down to the ground. "Good morning, Mother Goose," said Puss Jr., and he was so delighted to meet her again that he almost forgot to take off his hat. "'Tis hard traveling by foot," said old Mother Goose kindly. "Won't you ride with me on my fast gander over this high mountain?" "Is there room to spare?" asked Puss politely. "Yes, indeed, my little cat. He has a broad back and a stout pair of wings." And then Mother Goose began to croon. Old Mother Goose, when she wishes to fly, rides her gander over the sky, through the white clouds and the sunbeams and rain, fast as a comet and swift as a train, over the steeples and over the trees, and over the mountains, as safe as you please. And would you believe it, when she finished singing, they had crossed over the great high mountain. So he thanked Mother Goose and set off through the woods, and by he came to a deep pool under a great oak tree. But he didn't know that a frog king lived in it. No, siree. And perhaps it was just as well that he didn't, for the Frog King didn't like cats at all. Well, as Puss Jr. was tired and thirsty, he drank the cool water and then lay down to rest. And then, all of a sudden, a voice began singing in a deep, croaky way. "I'm king of this pool, and my throne's a footstool, and my subjects are queer little frogs. But remember this thing, while I croakingly sing, you'll never get out of these bogs." And the Frog King looked at Puss with a very ugly grin, for he wasn't a nice kind of frog at all. But Puss wasn't the least bit frightened. No, indeed, for he had been in dangerous places many times before. So he turned to the frog and said bravely, "Would you harm the son of the famous Puss in Boots?" And when the Frog King heard this, he nearly fell off his toadstool throne, and his crown dropped into the pool with a big splash. And then he gave a great, big, mournful croak. "Oh, gracious me, and oh, woe is me!" You see, as long as he had his crown on his head, he was a king. But just as soon as he didn't, why, of course, he was just an ordinary kind of a frog, and nobody feared him. So he jumped into the water and dived down to the bottom of the deep black pool. And all this time Puss Jr. stood there looking at him and the big circle in the water which the frog had made when he jumped in. Well, by he came to the surface, but without his crown. And he was very unhappy, for he knew that nobody would believe he was a king any more. So he turned to Puss Jr. and asked him to get it for him. "Why should I do that for you?" asked the little traveler. "Only a few minutes ago you looked at me with a grin and said that I'd never get out of this bog." "I promise to show you a safe path if you'll only get my crown for me," croaked the Frog King sadly. And just then a silver trout swam up and said, "I'll get the crown for you, Sir Cat, for my cousin, who lives in the moat at the castle of the Lord of Carabas, is very fond of your famous father, Puss in Boots." And with these words, the silver trout disappeared below the surface and returned shortly with the Frog King's crown in his mouth. And wasn't the frog happy? Well, you should have seen him. He danced around and sang this song. "Oh, I'm as happy as can be, for I'm a king once more. To be an ordinary frog would be an awful bore. You'd never guess the dreadful pain that smote my kingly heart when in the depths of this deep pool I saw my crown depart. And after that he said, come with me, and I'll show you a safe way out of this bog. And then he hopped away and pushed Junior after him, and by they came to the king's highway. Keep to this road until you come to a high hill, and then ask a little red ant who lives by the stone wall which way to turn. Good luck and a safe journey to you. And with these parting words, the Frog King turned home after taking off his crown and bowing most politely to the little traveler. Well, he was a most obliging king, said Puss Jr. to himself. Very obliging, especially considering he was a king, although only a frog. And away went Sir Puss down the road. And in the next story, I'll tell you what happened when he met the little red ant. End of chapter 7.